Hi my friends, it's Pat Sloan here. It is Sweet Dreams number 16. So what would it be? What would it be? Rice Krispie squares for the win. These have to be some of the easiest treats anybody can make, and maybe one of the first ones we're allowed to make on our own. Do you remember that as a kid? I do, because I was able to cook them on the stove. Even though cooking them on the stove, you know, there was a little bit of chance of burning that marshmallow, as it's the marshmallows as they started to melt, and getting a little disaster. But it really, all in all, they were pretty easy to make. You didn't have to use the oven and stuff like that. So I made a lot of them as a kid, and they're still a favorite of mine. Much easier though in the microwave. Just microwaves have really changed how you make Rice Krispie squares. So let me show you the block, because then I want to walk through the fabric selections before I show you what I ended up with. So here is our block, and I want you to do it in 2 different colorways. I know some of you are just making them the same, but try it in 2 different colorways. And I'm going to show you why. So let's walk through this. I want to take a look at these Rice Krispie blocks just to see how coloration really makes a huge difference. That's one of the goals of the Sweet Dreams, was to give you some opportunities to use the same block with different fabrics in the same quilt. That way you get a chance to actually experience putting those fabrics in the different positions and seeing how they look. This block is very similar to last week's block, with just a few changes with some half square triangles, which makes it look like a very different block. So let's take a look at the colorations. I got some fabrics out here. So I want to work on a light variation first. So this one will have be very similar to what this main coloration is here. Light background, which will be the one that I'm using for a lot of this last grouping. Then a little bit darker to pop this pinwheel here. And you can play around with the shading. This center doesn't have to be the same color as this. You might decide for your fabrics it looks better with this one, or an entirely different fabric in the middle. Leave that middle till the end, till you figure out what you're doing. So I want to keep these half square triangles very similar in color. That's the goal for this block, to get it actually a little bit more blendy. But you don't have to. So I'm going to show you what that can look like. This is a mock-up. So I have the darker one, the flying geese unit, and then here's the half square triangles. This would actually be a half square triangle, or a sew and flip, down here on the flying geese, half of it. But for the fabric audition, you can just do a rectangle. So that gives you a feel for what all this would look like. And then I would use, I think, the pink, because I need a few more blocks for the outer that have a little bit of this darker pink in it. So I think that would be great here. Then it could go in the center, which would be down here. Like if I was going to squish it up, it would be down here, like in the very middle. Or I could just use this in the middle again. And I'll figure that out once I get to it. Now, what if I wanted to do something a little bit different? Maybe make it tonal but not both gray. I could go with pink. So if I take this gray out and put a pink in here and then overlap it for the audition, they are very much the same tone. If you were to take a black and white photo of this, they will look like very similar fabrics, and that's what I'm going for. So the pink, the less soft pink, would also be a really good option for this one. So I have to decide on whether I want the gray or the pink. Now let's take a look at the other version, which is the darker one here. So I'm going to use, instead of that light in the background, I will use a darker fabric. And I have a little mock-up going here. So I chose this light pink because I have enough of that. And no, I'm sorry. I chose this gray. I was upside down. I chose this gray as the background, so that where this is here is the gray. Now for the pinwheels, right now I have them set up with 3 different pinks. So this stronger color is actually this medium pink here, and then the other ones are much closer. You know, they are very blendy. Then I have a corner of gray rather than the white that I show here. I thought the gray would really pop off of here, and then the gray might go in the center as well if I did it like that. But let's change this out for something else. Remember, this is the background of the block. So what if I changed out for a cream and put that pink and the darker pink there and a cream like that? So that's kind of nice. Remember, this is the background of the block. So, you know, what would be here, here, that's this guy. What if I wanted to create that flying geese unit just a little bit darker? So what if I switched it up and put this gray here? So now I have a little bit darker unit. And then I could use this pink instead for the squares out at the corner and put it like that. I kind of like that to give it a little bit more balance. I could use a different white out here. I have some others. So, but remember, you know, you want to be sure you don't lose the color with the backgrounds of the others and what kind of sashing you're going to have. My sashing right now I'm thinking is pink, so this would be okay. You could do one with a little bit more in it, a little bit more design, or something like this one, which has a bit more design. So what if I put this one here? How does that look? So this is what you do. So you take your fabrics and you keep switching them around. Oh, that's kind of neat. That has a lot more pattern on it. So it gives it a bit more fullness to the pattern. I like that a lot. Okay, I'm leaning that way. And then using some of this for the pink corners. Okay, one other thing then, now when I made these blocks, now the other thing I have is the corner units. So these 4 corners, I have made the blocks but not done the whole thing. So I wanted to show you the rest of how to go through them. These are the 2 fabrics that are already sewn as a half square triangle. So if you look on the back here, I drew a line from end to end. Whoops, end to end, and then sewed a 1/4 inch on either side. Now I will cut down this line, and to do that you need to have a longer ruler. Don't scoot your ruler. Yes, I scoot my ruler, and I always, I don't regret it. It's fine most of the time, but this is often what I'll do. See, the ruler's not long enough, so I'll cut part of it and then just scooch it up and cut the other. And this is not precision cutting right now because I am on a I'm just cutting for the seam allowance. So if I'm going to scooch, but if not, get a longer ruler out, and then you don't have any sliding, you don't have any chance of slipping. Put your hand in the middle of that ruler, and there you go. So these are 2 of the corners, and then I will cut the other 2 corners. But these have to be pressed open and then trimmed to the size on the pattern. And the size on the pattern is, whoops, upside down, is 10.5 by 10.5. So let me press this guy and we'll trim it. In order to trim this, I am using a 12.5 by 12.5 inch ruler. I'm going to go to the 10.5 by 10.5 inch mark. And the biggest deal of it all is to line up this diagonal right on your seam. Now I don't have much trimming to do on this, so I will be doing a little bit on one side and then a little bit on the top side. I will rotate the block. Once again, now I can line up the 10.5 by 10.5 lines on the ruler. The diagonal should still be just down the center. There you go. See it all? So there's a little sliver on there and a little sliver on here. So, alrighty. This is the corner block. I will do 3 more of them and I'll put them up on the wall, and we'll take a look at the blocks now on the wall with the corners. Here is the one with the gray background, all set and ready to go. All of the half square triangles are done. So like as you're connecting these, be sure you're, looking at the pattern and following so that they make the units that you expect them to make. Now the one thing would be, do I like the pink in the middle of that one, or would I want a gray square? So I'm just gonna grab the gray here and cut a 2.5 inch square, and let's just lay it on top and see what it looks like, because that's really how you know where things are going. Okay, so if I wanted to put this darker square in the middle, now that looks better. Let's see the difference again. Light, I like the light, but once you put this in here, it just pulls all of those pinwheels around, and then this is very tonal, which is what I was going for, so that you can play with your fabric and see how different and amazing this looks. Okay, I'm gonna sew it up. Here is the first one. So this is very distinct. It's very much like, you know, the coloration here, the lights, the sort of low contrast of the center part is what I was going for. And let me show you the second one, how that ended up. Once it was all sewn together. Of course, you saw it sort of in the stage there, but once it's sewn together, it sort of tightens everything up and you get a visual. And so this one's really interesting because I think it's a lot of tonal on the background, and then it has this pinwheel image just going to pop right off of it. Now, if you'd made that pinwheel image, the really dark one like this one, that would have been incredible too. So there's lots of ways you can play around with this to get the effect that you want. So I'm going to put them up on the wall here with the others. See, they have square triangles now, just like I showed you. They're up there. So I'll just put one on each side for now, just so that we can see. I'll just put it down here just to see where it's going, because there's like 3 on the bottom. Okay. Let me get the other camera and show you, because we get a much better view. So here they are, the 4 corners, and I just have that one laying there because I didn't want to move the cabinet. And then the blocks going all the way around, and I'll be deciding on that sashing. I'll probably audition a couple because it's kind of neat to not have it dark, anything dark. It could just be that light background, or I could use some of the really light fabrics that I have. But we still have a couple of blocks, which means we have 4 more, and then they'll sprinkle around. So this is how it's looking. So the other thing today is, if I had thought about it in advance, I would have named the block this. It is Pineapple Upside Down Cake Day. Pineapple Upside Down Cake. Love that. Love that. Have not had it in years and years and years. So I really need to think about making one of those. I do have a mail call, so I want to squeeze that in here. Laura, who is one of our wonderful, wonderful ambassadors, she sent me this super sweet card, and Laura's in Ohio. She loves Snoopy. Laura loves Snoopy. I love Snoopy. So thank you, Laura. And I have a card from Marky, and she is from Minnesota. So she sent me a card with a box that is not chocolates. So here's the box. It looks like a chocolate box, but ha ha ha. Instead, lots of salvages in there that she's been saving, and she told me she has tons more, so that if I'm making my quilt, I need any more, just tell her and they'll be on the way. So I've got so many now that I'm sure that I'm getting close to having a good bit to use to get started. And I just don't know how far they'll go until I make a block or 2 and sort of see what the fabrics are doing and how they work out, how the salvages work out on it. Okay, Sweet Dreams number 16, the Rice Krispie Squares. And if you have a story about Rice Krispie Squares, tell me. I want to hear. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.